Hi everybody, welcome from the Sparx Systems YouTube channel. It's great to have you join us today. Once again, we're looking at our urban parking system repository that's been designed and developed in Enterprise Architect. The last few videos we've been looking at requirements modeling and management, and we're going to continue that again today. Today we're going to be looking at element constraints. My name's Scott Hebbard. I'm joined by Stephen Maguire. Welcome, Stephen. What can you tell us about element constraints and how we can model them in Enterprise Architect?
Thanks for the introduction, Scott, and always a pleasure to be here. Yes, a very important element or a very important property of an element. And if you need to define conditions or rules under which an element operates and exists, you can do that by setting constraints on the element. And I guess you can look at these in conjunction with internal requirements, which you might call responsibilities as well, and see the two of them together. Sometimes there's some overlap between the two notions, between the requirements notion and the constraints notion, but most organizations will have some policies around how that works. The constraints have types on them as well, Scott. They have like the concept of being invariant. It applies all the time. The concept of a precondition, either before the element's created or before some action occurs on the elements. So, before a maintenance action occurs, and then postconditions, which occur, after some sort of process, such as, you did a software update. What are the postconditions that need to be in place before the system can go live again? So, as always, I like to set my perspective up in the top right-hand corner. And Scott, we have been focusing on requirements, and I've been doing lots of work this morning on requirements. So I have that perspective set, and just to refresh people's minds, I can go down here through the perspective sets and choose requirements there. I'm going to do that there quickly. The builder page pops up, lots of patterns there that you can use to be productive with your modeling. You can inject those into your model by clicking create model there. I'm going to close the builder page though, Scott, and do things from first principles. So let's use our navigation cells to navigate. We could use the project browser, obviously, to find our way around, but I like to use the navigation cells. They're quite simple and get to the location very quickly. So I'm going to look at a structural model. I want to look at the constraints on a payment station, and we did some internal requirements on that in a previous video. So I'm going to double click on that, go to class models there, and if I move down in the diagram there, you can see that I can find the payment station. Now, I could have got to that a different way, Scott. If I didn't have that diagram open, I'm just going to select that and show you. If I went to the start ribbon here and search and went to model, and I looked for the term payment station and use common searches and a simple search, and I can find that there. There we have the payment station as a block. We have the payment station as a class. That's the one we want. Yep. Let's go right mouse click there, find in diagrams. And again, the payment station comes up. So a number of different ways to navigate to it. Don't be frightened to use any one of the different methods. So we're on the payment station. You can see that we have internal requirements there. And we talked last time in the last video about viewing these requirements both in the diagram. So you can see that requirements, the requirements are shown in the diagram in their own compartment. I can then go to the inspector window, which is open over here in this panel, and you can see that the requirements are available there. If the inspector window wasn't shown, then we can get to that very simply, Scott, by going to the start ribbon, the all windows panel, the design item there, second item in the list, inspect. That brings up the window. It's context sensitive. These are the requirements for the context element, so the element that's either selected in the diagram, in the browser, or some other location. And if we clicked on a different element, like the payment reader, you can see that that's got different attributes and different properties listed there. So back to the payment station there, we can see that we've got the requirements listed there. Now I can simply double click on this element in the diagram and bring up the properties window, and I can see that my list of requirements is there. I can click on constraints, and I can click on new constraint, which is already set there. So let's have a look at putting a constraint now into the model, and I'll do that. I'll put in the screen readable distance as my constraint. So I have had the occasion parking in a parking space and going to the station and not being able to read the screen because it hasn't hasn't been powerful enough, or it's been affected by the sunlight or something. So I can put some notes into this one as well. The screen must be readable from 40 centimeters to 120 centimeter distance. Again, some specific metrics there. So what kind of property should we put in here for the type and the status? Let's put in that it's been validated, and let's put in the type of invariant. So let's drop down this list of types, and you can see the things that I mentioned earlier: invariant, postcondition, precondition, and process. So I think this is an invariant. It's not something that we need to have happen before or after the thing is created. So let's go save to that one there, and now let's go OK there, and you can see now that that's popped up in the inspector window underneath.
Is it possible to display a constraint in as a compartment as well?
Great question, Scott. Yes, so in the occasion that you want to print this diagram out, included in documentation generated from Enterprise Architect, you simply select the element, right mouse click, about halfway down, compartment visibility. I can click on that, and we've got a list of compartments. We are showing requirements at the moment, and we are showing attributes as well, but they are turned on at a diagram level because you can see that every single element has got its attributes. But I only want to show the responsibilities requirements for these, and also, as you mentioned, the constraints. So over here on the right hand side, I'll click on the constraints item there, and you can see now the constraints pop up in the diagram. Now, Scott, it can be a little tedious to be going off to that screen all the time if you popping that screen up, but you can do it from over here in the constraints as well. So I can go to the inspector window, right mouse click there, and say new constraint. So I'm going to put in another constraint there, and let's put in a post condition. Well, actually, let's put in a precondition one, and we'll call this one. This is a condition we'll call hardware self-diagnosis. Hardware self-diagnosis. So this is about the hardware. All hardware components must pass self-diagnostic tests, right? So this is a precondition one, because before the payment station goes live, we need to make sure that that is true. So we're going to put that as a precondition there. We've got notes in there. All hardware components must pass self-diagnostic tests. We could put in there before the station becomes operational. Operational or the software hardware updates.
Right.
So all of those things could affect it there. You can see that. Let's change the status. It is approved, but let's say it's validated built. Let's say it's implemented there. So we can put that in there, and we can say save on that. And let's have a look what happens to our diagram. Okay, 2 constraints listed over in the constraints column. 2 are listed there as well. Scott, I'm going to get you to perform some of your time travel magic. I'm going to just complete this list, and we'll see you back here in a couple of seconds.
Welcome back, everybody. I've performed a little bit of editing magic, and we've now completed all the constraints for our payment station element. And I can see that they're listed, and not only are they displayed in the inspector window, but they are also displayed in the compartment on the element itself. So Stephen, perhaps you can tell us what some of these constraints are, and which ones are pre and post and invariant, and tell us a little bit more.
Thanks, Scott. Glad to be back here. Let's have a look. We've got the payment station selected in the diagram, and as Scott said, you can see the requirements, constraints, and also the attributes compartment displayed there. And we've got a number of constraints written there, and you can see that they are included with the constraint is a type of bracket there. Let's go to the inspector window and look at that. We've got all of our requirements there. So I can look at this and I can say, let's just open this one up, and there it is. Let's have a look at this other option here, the open in list, and I can look at those down here in this window, and you can see now another place where we can view these. So again, we can add a constraint here. We can simply add new constraint there, but let's look at the ones that we've got and look at the type they are. So we've got this encryption key rotation, and you can see the notes there says encryption key rotation must occur every 30 days. We've got a precondition, hardware self-diagnosis, that we looked at, another precondition, network connectivity, and a post-condition, operational state after outage. So all system components must be restored to their defined operational states after an outage. So all system components, and we could make that more specific there, Scott, and put including hardware and software.
Yep.
Because the word component can be ambiguous to some people. That may make people understand that both those need to be checked. The physical footprint there is an invariant, maximum physical footprint 1.2 meters high, 0.6 wide, etc., etc. Power consumption limited to 250 watts during active operation. System interfaces, transport layer security. So the kiosk must comply with secure communication protocols, and in this case, the transport layer security, the TLS 1.3 minimum. So you can see we're starting to get down to some details, some constraints and requirements that are really, I guess, getting people prepared for developing these payment stations. So we start to know a lot more about them. And this is the power of the model, Scott. All of this information is inside the model, and incredibly powerful there. So we've looked at, in a previous video, these requirements, and also now we've looked at the constraints. And like I said, they go hand in hand. Sometimes there can be some ambiguity about, which is it a constraint or is it a requirement? But that will come out with people's organizations and what their policies are about the definition of requirements and constraints. I'll leave that up to the audience to decide.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that, Stephen. For our audience, thank you very much for joining us today. It's great to have you here. As always, if you've enjoyed this video, we encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe to the Sparx Systems YouTube channel, where you can see videos like this and hundreds more that will show you how to use Enterprise Architect and other Sparx Systems tools. If you have any questions about requirements or constraints, internal requirements, you can reach out to Stephen using his credentials that are listed below. Both his LinkedIn and website credentials are available. And as always, Stephen, thank you very much for your time and energy today. It's been great to see how you can model constraints and how they can be viewed both via the inspector window and the responsibility window, and you can display them in a very simple, easy to read compartment as well. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Scott. And remember, we've only just scratched the surface of the tool's potential.